This is the Brandon Smith Show. I'm your host, Brandon Smith, and the entire purpose of the show is one singular thing, and that's to help you live a life that much more free from dysfunction. Of course, we all want that. Today's show, we are on back to one of our leadership therapy segments, and we are going to talk about something particularly relevant for everyone this time of year. We're going to talk about holiday office etiquette. So that could include everything from office parties to who should you give gifts to taking vacation. We're going to jam on this topic a little bit. And so to help me with our jamming, I've got my wonderful producer, Whitney, with us today.
And number one jammer.
And is that a title you just anointed yourself with? Number one jammer?
Yes.
Yeah, well, was that a halo you just put on your head?
A crown.
A crown of number one jammer.
Yes.
Well, we'll be the judge of that by the end of our conversation today. So let's start with this topic. This was something you and I were kind of going back and forth on prior to the show, and you kind of started this off with office parties, and I've kind of extended it into more of this holiday office etiquette bucket. But let's start with the office party thing. What kind of sparked that for you when you thought about that topic? Were you thinking about times when you've gone to office parties in the past, or is it just something that you've heard people talk about?
Yes and yes.
You have a little like a squint when you say that, almost like a painful squint.
Yeah. Well, in fact, we just got ready for a holiday party that we went to, and you think about, who do you get a gift to? Do you just get a gift for the boss? Do you have to get a gift for everyone? When do you give it to them, right? Because you can't, if you're just going to give a gift to your boss, you don't want to give it in front of everybody else. And then I got to thinking too of, I guess, the more political correctness of saying Merry Christmas versus Happy Holidays, and it just kind of goes out from there. There's lots of things to consider.
Okay, so were you invited at someone's house, or was it?
Yes.
So I think this is a good starting place to this conversation. Location matters. So if it's at somebody's house, I think that's a different environment. You can kind of read the tea leaves. So you get in there and you see Christmas trees and you see kind of decoration that's Christmas related, and I think it's very appropriate to say Merry Christmas. But a lot of office parties, they'll do it more.
But what about everybody else there, though?
I think the mood, the environment sets the tone. Okay. Particularly if it's someone's house.
Okay.
So I think if it's someone's house, it's you're inviting into someone's personal environment, and then you would. So, for example, if you went to someone's house and they were celebrating Hanukkah, it'd be perfectly appropriate to say Happy Hanukkah. Okay. I think it'd be perfectly appropriate to say that. So I think that tone will be set by the location. But a lot of office parties, they really want to keep it, free from kind of a religious emphasis one way or the other. So then they'll say, well, we're going to do it at this event space. Mm-hmm. And then there may be a little more just general holiday. And then you might just say Happy Holidays. So I think location definitely matters.
That's a good guiding point.
By the way, while we're talking, I can hear Isaac in the other room.
Jingling.
He's wearing one of the elf hats that we have in our studio. And I can hear the jingle.
Here too, so.
And Natalie, she's not wearing an elf hat though, is she?
She's not.
No, Natalie's not wearing an elf hat.
Well, it's funny. I was trying to figure out if it's Isaac or Rory.
Yeah, Rory is since for those of you that are listening, you may recall that in a more recent show, my daughter Abby was on the show, and Rory the dinosaur, which is a 6-foot-tall dinosaur cutout, joined the show.
She was my favorite part.
And
not the host.
Rory or Abby?
Abby.
She's throwing me shade over here. Abby would be proud. So since then, Rory has now joined our show as a accompaniment to the show. So Rory is here with a Christmas Santa hat on.
How do you feel about that, Roy?
Rory. Not Roy. Rory. So location matters. Now, the other thing that we're going to want to think about when we think about holiday parties is, should you bring your significant other or bring a guest?
I was just about to ask that.
And Isaac was Isaac, can we hear you on this right now?
Yes, sir, they can.
Good, excellent.
Unfortunately.
Sometimes Isaac chimes in and you all don't get the benefit of all his comments. Sometimes we do. So today, Isaac is going to be joining us. So yeah, should you bring, so I'm curious, Whitney, what do you think? If Isaac was invited to a holiday party that was more kind of work related, would you want him to bring you? Would you not want to go?
If guests are invited, so if you get one of those guests and it's like Isaac plus guest, we are married. I would wager that that's perfectly fine that we go together. I think where the gray area might be is if you're just dating.
Yeah, we did a show on dating in the workplace.
Yeah. Well, but even if you're if you're an employee and they say, okay, you're allowed to bring someone, and even if like who you're dating is outside of the workplace, like that's where you really have to make the decision of, do I want to bring who I'm dating to the
I don't
party?
know. I'm going to make a broad generalization here and say, if as guys, I'm not sure if we would have a really good answer on when we should invite someone we were dating to one of those parties. So from your perspective, and Natalie, feel free to chime in, from your perspectives, when would you think it's the right, yes, you've cleared this hurdle, we should go to the office party?
I'm going to say 6 to 8 months, 6 months to a year. What do you think, Natalie?
I was going to say engaged.
Oh, Natalie threw out engaged.
That's good.
Because here's the thing. I think the 6 to 8 months is fine, but what if you show up next year with another?
Somebody else? That's true.
So the engagement kind of signals like, yeah, we're serious about taking the next step.
That's true.
We're probably going to be together next year for this party. So I'm going to say
So
engaged.
just to make sure everyone heard that, basically what Natalie said was, look, you got to be engaged because you don't want to come back the next year with someone else different. I totally get that perspective. You know, it's interesting. So if we step back from this, kind of what we're getting at here is people do want to see the other side of us at work. They want to see the personal side. There's not a really good term for it, so I've made one up. What we're going for is what we call professional intimacy. So intimacy is the kind of mutual exchange of thoughts, feelings, needs with another person. Professional is with boundaries. So people really like to see that personal side. I've got a client right now I'm working with, and part of what he's a very senior leader, and part of what the rest of the people that I've interviewed for him are wanting to see is they say, I never really see anything on his personal side. I kind of want to just know a little bit more about who he is as a person beyond just work. He's a great leader, but would love to know a little bit more. So when you're thinking about bringing a significant other, it is not I don't want to put any pressure on people, but it really is not a light decision. Really think about, this is an opportunity for me to share a little bit more about who I am as a person. Most office parties, they say bring your significant other, and I think that's very appropriate.
I had a question.
Yeah, Isaac.
What about the parents, family members?
I mean, should you bring your parents?
Should you bring any family members, brothers, sisters, or dad, mom?
He's asking because we experienced that recently too. We went to a party and
that would be, I think, awkward. I think that could
happens.
be. Was it awkward?
I don't know what to think about, really. I mean, it was. I'm very. I like to laugh at awkward situations. I'm not a very awkward person, but I thought it was. I mean, I didn't even care, but I knew that other people felt like a little uncomfortable. As a host, I mean, I could see that why people would feel uncomfortable.
And it was a house party. This was still a house party, so it wasn't at the office. But
I think I think part of it is the invitations need to be very clear.
Yeah.
So it's typically person and guest, and usually the guest is significant other. So one other person. I think that I would stick to a significant other, and I wouldn't expand into other family members or even friends. I think that would come across as just awkward and strange, and would actually get people talking about you in a way later, which then is a nice dovetail to the next kind of aspect around holiday parties. I think this is very common sense for everybody, but we should talk about it anyway, how to behave in a office holiday party, even if it's somebody's house. You should not plan on closing down the bar. Not a good idea. Even if it's your boss and a bunch of coworkers and you're like, this is a great bonding experience, I would not recommend it. I wouldn't recommend it. I really wouldn't.
I concur.
I really wouldn't. So if it was me and I was taking my wife to an office party, before we'd gotten out of the car, now granted, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be very, very, very straightforward with everybody listening. This stuff creates so much anxiety for me going to these parties. I just feel so awkward and so not sure what to do. It's social awkwardness or introvertedness, whatever it is. I just don't ever feel comfortable in these. But I will say, I think it's really helpful to set a date, a time when you're going to leave. Say, we're here at 6:30. We're going to leave at 9 o'clock. And just set that time and then stick to that time. I think that's your best strategy. You don't want to be the last ones leaving if it's really, really late. That's not a bad things. Well, I can't remember what parents used to say growing up. I can't remember if my dad ever said this or not, but was it bad things happen after 11 o'clock or after midnight?
Yes.
There's some like old school saying around this I need to probably develop so I can start telling Abby. Like, Abby, nothing good happens after ...
That's the phrase. Nothing good happens. Yeah.
After what?
You should move it up to like 7.
7 o'clock?
Yeah.
What would you say for an office party, holiday party, Whitney? What would you say is like the time you'd say, yeah, you don't really want to stay after this time?
9 is a good aim, maybe even earlier. So like, for example, say if the party starts at 6, I wouldn't be there right at 6. That's kind of our rule. Like, you don't want to be the first ones. That's something to consider too. So fashionably late, like maybe 15, 30 minutes late, and then stay 2 hours. I think 2.5 hours is good. Because also, kind of like you were talking about, that's when everyone's had the opportunity to, one, make their rounds, say hello, spend a little bit of time, but for the others who maybe are not so cautious as you, to just say, because I personally think it's another good idea before you go and you set that time to also say, set your drink limit. Like say, okay, we're going to have 1 drink. And that's it. And that's really just a social drink because we don't, oh yeah, water, Merry Christmas. So like you're there and you're talking and you're interacting but that's a good number to set. And then everybody else who doesn't follow that rule, parties kind of start getting a little, after 8:30.
What do they do?
Woo.
Yeah, we want to avoid that. Well, not good.
Don't want to be on the woo.
Now, can be fun for your own party.
Yeah.
And I just like saying, that's fun, but I would not recommend it for an office party because remember, we're still managing our brand and reputation and all those kinds of things, and people are still watching. So we want to be aware of that. So what I'm taking away from this is we think about the office party thing. Is actually you can measure all that stuff. I never really thought about it. I mean, kind of geeky. But you can talk about, okay, I'm going to bring 1 person. Who am I going to bring? When are we going to get there? When are we going to leave? How many drinks are we going to have? How many people am I going to talk to? Who am I going to talk to? Because you talked about making your rounds. It almost feels like, okay, I want to make sure I talk to her, make sure I talk to him, make sure I say hello to her, and that guy over there, and her, her over there, and then introduce this person to that person, and then, oh, sorry, we got to go. We got a babysitter, or we got another commitment, or whatever happens to be.
So Brandon,
it's very calculated.
For the introverts, I'm one of them because I like to be behind the scenes, but I'm starting to slowly be in front of the scenes. For people who don't like going to parties, for career-wise, what are the goods and the bads of not going? And you know what I mean? Like, as in career, you want to go there just because you want to show that you're part of the team, but you also, like we talked about, be careful.
Isaac, that's a really, really important question. It's so important that we're going to come back to that question after the break.
I knew where that was going.
Did you see how I set that up? So stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. We're going to jump onto Isaac's question of what's the importance of going or versus not going. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about holiday etiquette. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, this is Brandon Smith. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. It is the season of family and hopefully not family dysfunction. And it's also that time of year that if you're anything like me, you're planning for the next year. You're thinking about how can I set next year up to be really, really awesome? Well, I want to help you with that. If you haven't downloaded one of my workbooks on workplace happiness, I'm going to offer a special gift to all my listeners that if you download one of those books, use the promotional code NEWYEAR, all one word, New Year, either uppercase or lowercase, and you can receive over 50% off any of my 3 workbooks. So whether you're looking for the right job, you could download that workbook, or the right culture, or the right boss. All of them, the promo code will work. So consider that my gift to you as you get ready for the new year, and let's make this next year, 2018, a great one. This is the Brandon Smith Show. Welcome back from break. We are talking today about office party and office etiquette around the holidays. So what can we be doing? And we spent some time jamming on office parties, and I'm going to kind of close this portion of our holiday etiquette conversation by addressing Isaac's question. So Isaac said, so I'm an introvert. I don't really even want to go to these things. What's the importance of going to these things? I would unfortunately say, as a fellow introvert, I really don't want to go to these things. So here's what goes on in my head. I get invited, and I'm so excited to be invited. So I say, yes, I'm going to go. And I might ask Emily, do you want to go with me? She says, yeah, we'll go. And I'll say yes. And then as we get closer to the event, I think to myself, what did I do?
I'm the same way.
Do I really want to drive all the way down to ... and then mingle and then come back? But the reality is you really, really need to do it. It's really, really important to build those relationships. And you do it even at those office parties. Even though it's a small little thing, there aren't many opportunities, particularly in our workplaces today, where people can mingle and socialize, everyone with no agenda. That just doesn't happen anymore. And that's really what the office party, the holiday party does. It may be the only time the entire year where you get to do that. So I would go back to our earlier comments and say, you got to go. But if it makes you feel better, go ahead and set those timelines, those time limits. We're going to be here for 2 hours to kind of Whitney's point. We're going to come in at 6:30. Oh, it's going to start at 6, but Whitney's super fashionable, so she's got to be fashionably late. Shows up at 6:30, 6:45, so everyone notices her walking into the room.
No. You know what they notice when you're
she'll
first?
Stay until 9.
# awkward.
Sometimes, though, I will say this. I've had the benefit of being first and have it not be too awkward.
That's true.
In this way. So I've been first and helped out getting things ready. So then it makes me feel like I've got something to do. That doesn't bother me. Okay, she's looking at me like I'm weird. Maybe
Do you know what I
weird.
heard last night?
What?
Usually I don't like people in my kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
The women
Well,
don't.
that's true. That's
it's like,
true.
no, I'm trying to be, I've got
true.
15 minutes,
That's
sir.
true. Well, the other thing I would also say is if you're there earlier, it's a lot easier to start conversations with somebody. When you show up later, then there's all the little circles of conversations going on, and then you got to find a way to like crack into one of those. And you just kind of stand on the outside, circling, waiting for an opening.
I just think it's rude if you're early.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. I think we've...
As a fellow person who doesn't like people
I'm not early.
in the kitchen.
Early. If it starts at 6 o'clock and I show up at 6:05, that's not early.
No, that's fine.
That just might be the first person.
5:45.
I'm not early.
5:45.
I'm not early.
We may have arrived early and circled the neighborhood a couple of times.
Okay, I've done that before too. Okay, so we're moving on to our next topic. We're going to talk about gift giving.
This has been way more of an intensive topic than I thought it was going to be, Brandon.
Yeah. Well, that's my job. I bring the passion. I bring the intensity.
All right, gift giving.
It's what I do. Gift giving. So should we give gifts? Who should we give gifts to? This is the question. People wrestle with this and they approach this different ways. The way that I would, if I was to offer up advice around this, is I would say, think back to the last year and give gifts to the people. People are going to appreciate it the most if it's meaningful. So it really is tied to something. So really think about, who really made a difference for you this year. So don't give a gift just to kiss up, or don't give a gift just to give a gift, because then that also creates, so don't walk in and say, I'm going to give everybody gifts, because then you're going to create this expectation that, oh gosh, now I got to give that person a gift back. Really give a gift. Think back to the people that really made the most impact for you that year and say, okay, what can I do for them? And can I write them a little card, a note, or give them a little gift to really thank them for that extra effort? So maybe your boss gave you this great opportunity, or really encouraged you, or invited you to a big meeting. Then you thank her with a gift and you say, hey, just a little token, really thank you for this year. It was a great year and really appreciate this one thing. So tie it to something I think is good.
I have a question.
Okay, hit me.
How much should you spend on said gift?
I think the amount you spend should be directly correlated to the impact they had over the year. So let's just say you had a really great working relationship with your boss and you really enjoyed working with her or him. I think depending upon the kind of job you're in and your salary level, it could be anywhere between $25 to $50 to $50 to $100. I don't think you need to go over $100 for your boss. But it depends. Maybe you felt like, gosh, they made such a big difference. They really they gave you a promotion and set you up and increased your salary by so much money, and really believed in you that, you feel like something bigger is warranted. But I would keep it, I think that's probably a fair band. $100 is the most for a boss. For a coworker, I would keep it more in the $25 to $50 range. I would not go beyond that. I think that's plenty. It's really there just to provide a tangible example to reinforce the difference they made for you that year. So I think that's the spirit of it. Does that help?
It does.
Okay. You look like I can't tell if you want to ask me another question or not.
No, it's just when you said directly correlated to how much of an impact. You've had $100 impact on my life. So, that's what I thought.
That's not what you're saying. I mean, if your boss gave you, let's say you got a raise and now you make $5,000 more, you shouldn't give them a present worth $5,000. That's not what you should do. That's going to be really awkward, and it's also going to feel like, is this a kickback? What are they? Are they paying me to give them more? It's really more of think of it more as a weighting. I mean, if you received a gift from someone that was $100, you'd say, wow, this was a pretty significant thing.
Yeah.
Wow, this was great.
I get you. I'm just saying that's what went through my mind.
I think that's fair.
And that was a nice segue because I clearly need a vacation. You're coming up on the end of the year. A lot of people save that extra time, like maybe they didn't take a vacation throughout the year. And two, I would add that the holidays are a good time to go on vacation because it's when maybe it's a little bit more quiet in the office and maybe you can expect to go away and not necessarily have to look at your email so many times while you're gone. Is that a good thing to do, or is it like you're already getting a week because it's Christmas? What are your thoughts on using that vacation time?
Well, first of all, to say whether it's a good thing or not, I would say it's common. So I would start there. It's super common because what we're doing here today is we're not taking our vacation. We're not taking all of it. I can't tell you how many clients I have right now that say, yeah, fortunately, I was able to work out. I'm able to not lose the rest of my vacation. I'm going to take it all in December, rolling into January. Because they've got 2 weeks or whatever they haven't taken yet.
Yeah.
Because they've been working all year long.
Yeah.
So it's whether we like it or not, we should do it or not, it's at least become a cultural rhythm, at least here in the United States, where people take a lot of vacations. So you should expect that last 2 weeks of December to basically be dead from a work productivity standpoint. You're going to have, and I know offices I go into that have, 20%. They've just got a skeleton crew. Everyone else is on vacation. The week before Christmas, the week of, and after Christmas. So you can go all the way kind of the week before, the week of, and then even the first week of January is going to be, not going to be running at 100%. So should you take it? Then if you got it and you haven't taken it, yeah, you should take it so you don't lose it. And it gives you the benefit of this is this, because you end up with 2 to 3 weeks altogether. And if you followed any of our other shows, we've talked about vacation. There's 2 kinds of vacations. There's kind of interval training vacation, where you're taking small vacation bursts throughout the year to give you breaks. So every quarter you take a really long weekend. So you're getting those rest periods. And that's really, really important to kind of manage all the urgency and anxiety in the workplace. This one falls in the other category. This is sabbatical vacation. 3 weeks or more is a sabbatical, because it usually takes people almost a week to fully decompress and stop thinking not feel like or think about work. Mm-hmm. And then you get the other 2 weeks to reflect and really recharge. So you're getting more of that. So you're getting a sabbatical. So there's value in that. All that to say, you shouldn't be taking all your vacation at the back end of the year. If that's the only time you get vacation or you're taking it, that's a problem. Don't do that next year. Really think about taking it quarterly. Take a couple vacations. Take multiple times, because the workplace today there's more urgency and anxiety in it than ever before, at least in the modern workplace, at least in the last 30 years. So it's not healthy to kind of dump it all at the back end. The example of this would be, they talk about people that Research has shown when that people who say, "Oh yeah, I only sleep 4 hours a day, but I catch up on the weekends." Research has shown that doesn't work. You really are not catching up. The physical toll it takes on your body, the other 6 days or 5 days that you're only getting 4 hours, isn't good. And I think vacations are the same way. So, if you can, try and spread it out throughout the year.
That's good. I know some people who could use that advice, both the vacation and the sleeping.
Yeah, and I would say there's one other element around this, and then we'll start to kind of move to close and kind of wrap this up. A lot of us are going to be tempted to work over the holidays because either you go into the office and it's quiet and there's nobody there, or there's like 5 people, which is not necessarily a bad thing. That would actually be good if you're not taking a vacation day to go into the office and work, because then you can get work done and not be distracted. I know there are people who would pay a lot of money for that right now, people listening to this right now. So you can get a lot of work done that way. So there's value in that. But if you're home on, say, Christmas or New Year's Eve or whatever happens to be, and your family's there and they're expecting you to interact with them, not a good idea to be holed up in your office working the entire time. So treat it just like you would any other vacation where you're going to the beach. And even I've done this. Get up early before your family gets up, do a couple hours of work, and then when they get up, then kind of join them. But don't let this interfere with good family time. That would be my kind of general tips.
Can you do that even if you go away on vacation? Like get up early?
Yeah, even better. If you go away on vacation, even better.
Nice.
And it can, there might be other ways to work it in. If you're going, maybe you're staying at in-laws or you're staying at other family and you're really uncomfortable or you really not super thrilled to be there. Maybe you can find a reason to go to a Starbucks or a coffee shop and say, hey, I just got to knock out a couple hours of work. Gives you something productive to do, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of disengage from family when you need it. Because realistically, while we're going to spend a lot of time with family, that's not necessarily always going to be a happy event for the holidays for a lot of us listening. Everyone says it is, but realistically, it's not always. So make sure you take care of yourself during this time too. Make sure that if you've got family members, if you got Cousin Eddie staying with you for 5 days, make sure you are getting time for yourself and carving that out. And make sure you're setting those expectations with your spouse and your family early on to say, hey, just so you know, Cousin Eddie really whacks me out. I'm going to have to take some time off every once in a while and go off down there and get a cup of coffee. So don't be offended when I do that. It's just so I can be nice and happy every time I see Cousin Eddie. Okay. Anything we didn't talk about that we should have today?
I think that's good, and especially wrapping up with Cousin Eddie. That was
Cousin Eddie. We all
classic.
We all have Cousin Eddie. Something real nice. Get yourself something real nice, Clark. Real nice. By the way, if you haven't seen my house this Christmas, it's totally Griswold out. I'm blowing fuses nightly, folks. Blowing fuses nightly.
I believe it. Poor Abby.
Yeah, she told me last year, she's like, Dad, this house is extra, which was not. She's saying it's okay to say that, but she was not intended that way. I don't care. It's still pretty awesome. So from Clark Griswold here and Whitney, thank you for joining our show. And of course, follow us every Sunday as we drop a new show at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And you can follow us on Facebook.com/Brandon Smith, WPT for Workplace Therapist, and Twitter at the WP Therapist. iTunes, thebrandonsmithshow.com, and of course you can even follow other content that might be helpful for you at the Workplace Therapist. So until the next time we get to meet and hear each other and see each other and speak to each other, have a great week, an awesome life.